Man, I would love to have a conversation with you. Even if you don't use our services, I would love to talk with you about how you do that, because I think the world needs more great ideas, and I know they're out there. Just oftentimes they're in people who maybe don't have the know-how or the wherewithal to be able to communicate it to the audience that needs to hear it.
Step into the world of success with Your Brand Amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. From counselor to social work intern to pastor and many other roles in the church to COO of an AI company, Robert Newberry, you have clearly a servant leadership heart, and I'm really interested to bring to light the conversation that takes us from all of your work helping the community and then now shifting a little bit, still helping people through the magic of AI. So thank you for joining me on Your Brand Amplified.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. And yeah, when you put it all like that, it sounds probably a little bit different than it felt going through all that. But yeah, no, it's been a wild ride, but I've loved every part of it.
Yeah, well, explain that. What felt different than the way, because I made it really succinct, obviously.
Yeah.
It's a longer journey than that.
Man, honestly, it just felt like a natural progression. Thanks for a long time, with the counselor part, working at camps, doing other things. It was what I love to do. It was something that I grew up doing, and it blessed me, helped me out in so many different ways. I was like, yeah, of course, I'll go back there. And then once I discovered that that was kind of what I wanted to do, I jumped into a degree or a career that I thought would be most conducive to set me up to understand interpersonal dynamics, relationships, how to process just how people change and how people understand where they are. Because I was pre-kinesiology when I initially came into college. And then I realized that you can't really do much with that without a master's degree. And I didn't think I'd go get the master's degree with that, because I now found this calling that I really wanted to help people. And so I went and shifted. And then that threw me on the social work track. And yeah, again, it was just the next step of what I needed to do is I needed to get an internship. And lo and behold, I ended up in hospice care. And so I was just meeting with, people near the end of life. And I struggle to put it into words, just how enlightening, how cherished those times were for me, because I just got to sit with people in the moments where they didn't really have the cares or concerns anymore. There were some people that had made peace with where they were. And so they were just processing their life. And so I just got to be that respite care and just get to talk with them and be there for them in that time. And so, yeah, it was truly great. I still have a few memories and a few keepsakes from that time. And then, yeah, just the natural progression of where I was headed was ending up in ministry after that. And so it really just seems like I just kind of stumbled backwards into those things, because it was like, okay, I kind of know what I want to do, but I don't know how to go about it. And just these opportunities kept presenting themselves in front of me, one after another. And I just got to keep walking through that door and keep taking those steps until this one. Well,
yeah. I was having a conversation earlier today with somebody. I said, I know about sales funnels. I'm a marketer, brander. I've done PR. I did ad sales way, way back in the days of magazines. But I haven't had to do much of the lead gen side myself, because like you, everything has just kind of been referrals or the next natural progression. And whenever I've had a business, whether it's, the podcast, I don't have to go search for guests. I get a lot of really great inbound inquiries about being on the podcast, and I have a wait list. It's really fantastic. When I had my PR firm, it was all inbound referrals from other clients. But when I think about today, that's not enough, right? I mean, for my podcast, I advertise it along with all the other things because it's necessary. And when it comes to building up our organizations, we do need to understand the sales cycle, the customer journey, the funnel. So I feel like, interestingly, you've had a lot of experience learning about people's motivations in your past life, if you will, and understanding, their motivations, what drives them. And that probably helps you be much better at figuring out how do you continue to help organizations then grow their revenue.
Yes. I would definitely agree with that. I think it's been honestly one of the things that surprised me the most about making this jump is when I initially started realizing that my wife and I were going to be leaving Fort Worth, I didn't really know where to turn. But luckily, she had had some connections to a referral based job matching company that basically works by having your peers send your resume to people that might match. But she knew the CEO because of her work. And so she just threw a Hail Mary out there and said, "Hey, would you mind meeting with my husband?" Just talking to him about what he could be working in, what he could be doing. And it was really in that conversation where I started to discover how much of a transfer there was. Because when I initially looked at it, I was like, I have no skills. I don't really have anything. Like, I've worked in ministry. It's a totally different world.
Yeah.
And anything that I'm about to step into. In that conversation with a guy named Dakota, he actually started kind of poking and prodding and saying, like, there's a lot of transferable skills here that you have. You just need to know how to brand them and know how to speak the language that you're getting into. But personal dynamics, like you're saying, personal motivators, interpersonal communication, project management, all those things you've done. It's just in a different world. Yeah. And so the biggest challenge for me was learning what is the necessary level of knowledge, what's the base foundational knowledge that I need to be able to apply the skills that I have on that foundation so it actually helps the company. And so, but yeah, it's really been fascinating getting to see just in sales calls, just how many people want to genuinely connect. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily, people don't jump on the phone wanting to just hear, like, tell me the best offer. You can get that over an email if you weed through the 1,000 that you get every day. But if you genuinely want to understand why someone does what they do and what it serves, what's their motivation behind it, then I feel that's when you really come to an understanding of how can I help this person out. And it's that level of understanding and understanding the people dynamic behind the business that I think has been so helpful for me in this season.
Well, what prompted your move from ministry into AI and the more, the business world? And then how did it sounds like you had to do a little bit of a rebrand, repositioning of yourself to show your qualifications.
Yeah. Well, the short of why or what prompted this transition was my wife got into med school. So when we were dating, she had talked about this being her long-term goal, and I was happy to come alongside her. I had been working in ministry all the time while we were getting to know each other. And she said, "Hey, this is my North Star. This is my goal. This is what I've been doing." I was like, "Great. Well, let's apply. Let's see what happens." And then once she applied, she got into this great school, and it's down here in Galveston, Texas. And so that meant we were going to have to move. And that's when I kind of came face to face with the reality of what our life would look like and where that would take me in terms of career. And so that's what really made me start looking and kind of transitioning over to this side, because I knew that she would be busy with school. And so I wanted to do something that was still helping people, was still getting to a place where I could understand what people wanted and then help them achieve it. Because that's, if you had to put a banner over my life, it's I want to help people reach their potential. And so with that, wanted to figure out that was something that was this crossover, but that could still support us as we make this transition and start paying for her school. So found a pretty incredible opportunity with a guy who's now a good friend. And yeah, we're getting to walk through this together.
Nice. Was it a big transition for you to learn about the world of tech? Did you have previous experience with artificial intelligence and Gen AI?
I mean, no more than your average user. It wasn't something where I had taken any classes or anything like that. I do think I have an aptitude towards the technical side. My brother majored in aerospace engineering. My dad's a geophysicist. And so we speak a technical language at the house. When something breaks, we take it apart and try to understand it. So there is a technical side to how I've just always grown up and the understanding that I have. But I had always talked about our family as I was the people side of the tech and the understanding. But now I'm crossing that bridge, coming over to the other side with my brother and my dad. And so it's been a really fun time. But there was no in-depth knowledge beforehand, but I can sum it up best as drinking from a fire hydrant now, trying to understand. There are just so many things. I feel like the learning curve changes every 6 weeks, it feels like, where there's something new coming out. There's a new tool. There's a new way that Gen AI can be applied, that you can't just stay stagnant and say, okay, these are the base competencies that I need to know, and then I can put them away and forget about them and just rely on them. You're a lifelong student. And so that's honestly a way where it's been really helpful having my wife here, because she'll have to study sometimes till 11, 12, 1 a.m. And so I'm like, all right, I got nothing better to do. I should sharpen myself. Like I should try and figure out what I need to do and learn a little bit more of my craft as I'm jumping into this.
Wow. Yeah. And you not only jumped in, but you jumped in as a co-founder.
Yeah.
So
Good lady.
yeah, big leap, big leap. So what has it been like having to help lead an organization and figure out, what do we have and what are the missing components that we need to have to be able to show our solutions, to show how we're helping our clients get to the next level with sales?
Man, what it's been like, the best way I can say it is fun. When I initially started talking to people about what I wanted to look for, they basically asked like, okay, what are your primary goals? What are your primary hopes for this new role? And verbatim, I think I said, I want a job where their blueprint isn't already set, like where the formula isn't already discovered. Because if everyone knows the answers to the problems that I'm already trying to answer, like that seems incredibly boring. That seems incredibly dull. I want to sit in front of a problem that people haven't figured out yet and then start to try and find ways to figure it out. Because I think that problem solving, that critical thinking is something that I always used in ministry because people are constantly changing. You can't ever look at a person and say, okay, I totally understand you, because they could have an experience the next day that drastically changes their perspective. And so since that environment is so highly volatile, if I were to walk into just a base 9 to 5 and say, okay, I'm just doing this for a paycheck and I'm going to get somewhere and, pay for the next 8 years to help my wife get through med school, I think my soul would crumble in the midst of that. And so I wanted something that was a high change environment, something that was fast paced. And so jumping in as a co-founder seemed like the perfect opportunity because, we're having conversations on one end of how do we want to internally structure our company, while at the same time, we're trying to fine tune the product we deliver to our clients, the service that we deliver, and seeing how those two interchange and affect the constantly moving pieces. And so if I tweak something on our internal structure, it could affect the quality of service that we deliver. And so getting all of those pieces in the right place and making sure that they work in a way that not just we are comfortable with it, but our clients feel that. They feel organization, they feel the care, and they feel the quality of service because of the way we've kind of kept our house in order, I think is one of the most rewarding things for me.
Yeah, that's something that should not be discounted. Making sure that you have your internal systems and processes in place so that your team feels most effective, that the operations are running smoothly, so that when you serve clients, you're not having to scramble and go, oh gosh, we didn't get this thing over to them. We need to get this report done. Whatever other situations may come up, because you've already set a strong foundation for your business.
Absolutely. Yeah, I tell my partner, our co-founder, all the time, we have to make sure the house is in order before we invite the guests in. Throwing a party, if you've hosted anyone at your house, unless, you live just in a frat house with a bunch of dudes, you're going to have someone in that house who says, hey, no, this has to be cleaned up. We're not having guests over like this. My mom was that way. My wife is that way. It's honestly the most life-giving thing when you do the work and then people come in and then they're like, hey, I love the way you decorated the place. Or in our case, we just had a discovery call yesterday where we had been working on our website and we'd been trying to make sure that our value proposition was so clear from our website that people could come on and it wasn't just like, oh, they do a lot of cool stuff with tech, but no, what are we actually trying to deliver? And we had a discovery call yesterday where I had a potential client verbatim tell me, man, one of the reasons I was really drawn in is I'm a big branding guy. He's a, e-commerce design guy. He's like, I'm a big branding guy. And I looked at your website and it looked so clear and it looked like exactly I could understand what you wanted to do. And so that's why I honestly picked up the phone and gave you a call. And so those are the type of things where it's so rewarding for me to basically say like, okay, our efforts paid off. The time that we spent not focusing on revenue, but having to take care of our own process, having to take care of our house has then in turn helped the revenue and driven our bottom line in another way.
100%. I have your website pulled up and you teed up perfectly. Like what my next question was how do you show in a field where a lot of people are using AI? As you said, we know that new tools are popping up all the time, or tools are constantly being improved in the world of artificial intelligence. And there are a lot of people who try to sell similar services. So how do you show what your unique selling proposition is, how you differentiate? And I love the fact that it's so clear or you say the lead wave advantage, right? And you have it outlined 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So many people don't do that. And it's sometimes you want to go into business with somebody or you want to hire them because you have a great, you talk, you get along, but you don't get this clarity. And so then often that means it's not as going to be successful. You're going to have to part ways at some point.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I am a big believer in transparency and as much as you can. Obviously, there are wise times in personal and in business life to keep some things close to the vest because if they're not ready to share, it's not beneficial to that person. They don't need to know. But if I'm going to be pitching to you, hey, come give me your money and I'll deliver service for you, I will basically take on a little bit of the reputation of your brand because I'm going to be doing something in your name. You need to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. Because if I was a business owner who was focused on B2B sales or whatever industry they're in, and I was going to bring someone else in, because part of our pitch is saying that we don't just provide a software, we are a service that fractionally comes in and takes on your goals and then becomes a fractional a part of your team to help support you. If I'm going to pitch that, then they need to understand what we're doing in their name, because otherwise I wouldn't trust them. I wouldn't agree to blindly say like, yeah, go take my name that I've worked so hard for, the thing that has been my baby for a long time, and do whatever you do with it, even though I don't understand it and you won't really tell me about it. That just breeds a level of uncertainty and, like you said, distrust, because business is a challenge in the first place. Like no one has the golden formula to where I can guarantee you we're going to sell on this call. And so if things go wrong, you want to be able to analyze every single part of your process. But if we're keeping you at an arm's distance to say, hey, you can't understand what we do, like you can't know the ins and outs of it, then how are you going to be able to evaluate that as a business owner? You can't. And so it should be one of the first things that goes. So we really want to invite our potential clients or customers in to say like, hey, come take a look at our process, because we're not just selling the software. We are a service that comes alongside you. And so we're doing this where you can know what we do. We're selling ourselves to say, hey, we're going to make this easier for you. And that's where our real value prop comes in, is not just, hey, we've got an incredible AI that does everything for you. It's we've got a team who uses AI to help grow your business.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you use your system to generate leads? Is that part of, or how have you, because you've been around for 8 months, right? So you're still very much in that infancy startup phase. So how have you been able to gain an audience, get those inbound leads? Is it through your system? Do you also do some advertising, other forms of marketing?
We don't do any marketing or advertising at the moment. We use our own champagne, or one of my co-founders says we drink our own champagne.
Yeah.
That's what we do. All of our leads come from our own campaigns, what we're doing through our systems and our internal processes. And so it really gives us an advantage to when we get on the phone with a potential client and they say, okay, well, how do we know this works? And part of our answer is, well, we're on this call. Yeah. We use this for our own software. I have zero lead gen background. I feel like I have been through the ringer now, where I've gotten the experience, for someone who's been doing this for one company for, 5 times the time, because I've taken it on for all of our clients as well. But in that time, I have been able to, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I think even just for myself, in the, half year I've been here, I personally have fielded over 150 calls. And so like in that time, like those are the numbers that speak for themselves in terms of what we do. And I've never picked up the phone to cold call someone. I've never, done anything other than use our LinkedIn and our email processes in the same way that we would for a client.
Yeah. To that point, that's how we met. I think you connected with me, sent me an email wanting to talk about, ways we could work together. And of course, I love AI. So I was like, let's have a call. And I'm like, oh, you need to be on the podcast and share what you're doing. So it clearly worked, and now I'm like, let me see who I know who might need to use your system. So it's been a short runway, right? But I'd love to hear any stories about people you've started working with and how you've been able to help simplify their processes, get them that next wave of clients and revenue growth.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got kind of 2 different ways that we leverage our services. The first is for other startups who are either looking for investing or their first couple companies, because the same system that works for outbound for selling to other businesses, trying to reach out and network, works for venture capital firms and investors. You just have to know the right value prop and have to know how to communicate what you do. And in that lane, one of our biggest success stories is a small 2-person startup who wanted to raise a seed round of funding. And so they used our services. And then within the first 2 months, they had actually landed a lead investor, their lead investor at their target price or their target valuation. And once they did that, he actually came back and offered to buy the whole company and then hire them back on to run it.
Oh my gosh.
And so that was all from our system and being able to use that and reach it out. And then on the other end, we got a couple clients who we're working with right now, one of which is a cybersecurity firm. And since we have worked with them, they have doubled their revenue. And then they've got another couple contracts that are out right now that if they were to land would add another 20 to 30% onto their revenue in about the half year that we've worked with them. Yeah. And so a lot of people in the lead gen market say like, hey, we want to see results by day one. And it's understandable because you're spending that money. But where our sweet spot really is once we start to work with you and we start to get to understand a little bit more of your value prop, that's when we can start introducing that A/B testing into our sequences and into our outreach and really niche down and hone in on your ideal client profile and then really set it up for success. Because for that cybersecurity company, we found that for one specific person on their team, one of their C-suite level executives, what worked best for him and his outreach was reaching out directly to CTOs of other companies. And so it almost was like a, hey, we're peer-to-peer talking about these are the needs that your company might have. Let me explain them to you. And he has seen like a 20% increase in response rates and people reaching out and taking a meeting with him just because we targeted CTOs. And so that only came because we were able to start talking with him, review successful outreach, review ideal clients that they've worked with in the past. And then we discovered this gold mine that he was sitting on to where people understand his value prop the moment he reaches out.
Yeah. I mean, those are some really great case studies already. So, and I know a lot of people try to raise VC funding and have a really difficult time. So it seems like you can really help streamline this process so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's our hope.
Amazing.
And so.
Do you have a lot of people who maybe have tried out other systems and not found success?
Yes. It's honestly one of our biggest barriers to starting business with other people is being put in the lead gen category because so many people say, like a perfect example, I had never had B2B marketing on my Instagram ever in my entire life. And as soon as I jump over to Lead Wave and start being a co-founder, start being a part of these calls, really living this life, all of my advertising is now lead gen, like either it's an AI scheduler, an AI call, whatever it is. My own personal Instagram is inundated just with all these ads and they're all promising the moon. And yet when you actually go in, there's always just this one big glaring catch that because they have great marketing or whatever else, it really makes them almost impossible. Like one of them said, hey, we'll call, schedule, book, do everything for you, but it's only in their native system with the contacts that they have. So you can't go and like reach out to companies that you really want to target. They have to be in that network that they already have. And so it's stuff like that where people jump on, or maybe they, jump on with Zoom Info or Apollo, but they don't know how to use the tools. And so either their inbox gets blacklisted or something like that to where they can't deliver anymore. So they say like, hey, we've tried the lead gen thing. Why are you different? And that honestly is probably where we start about 30% of our discovery calls is why should I trust you compared to all the other people that I've tried before? And our answer to that is usually because we're not a software. We're not just a service. We're not just a platform that you can use. This is a partnership and a service that we're really coming on to help you succeed. And that's what I think sets us apart is you get my attention, you get Zach's attention, you get Bryce's attention, you get all three of our minds working on how we can make you the best company you are.
Nice. And I noticed that also when I was going back and looking at our message chain, which was very short. It was, you had a nice introduction message. You didn't try to sell me right away, which is one of my pet peeves of LinkedIn messaging of like, somebody has a nice message. Oh, I want to connect with you because we are blah, blah, blah. And then the next thing you get is a sales pitch. I'm like, hey, you know what? That's not showing me that you actually want to be a partner. I'm just a number. And that's the game to you. And yours was very personable. You weren't trying to sell me anything. You just said, let's just have a conversation. And, it's led here and it's probably going to lead to many other places in the future. So I loved that approach. And I think anybody who's listening, who's thinking about doing any kind of, cold outreach, you should pay attention to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen up. Hey, I'd love to have a chat. But yeah, I think that's because we take the prospecting out of the manual labor that you have to do. When it comes to being able to do this at scale, I don't have to try and sell you. Like, I genuinely just wanted to connect and have a conversation, and you were willing to. And so it puts us in a place where we don't have to push an agenda. We don't have to push a product because, I've got other conversations lined up to where you and I can just genuinely connect. And if there's no real business to be done, I'm happy to get to know you. And if you do need something in the future, or maybe I need your services, part of how we connected with that cybersecurity firm was we actually needed something for ourselves as well. So
Nice.
Zach, our founder, sat down and had a conversation. He's like, hey, I think we can help each other out here.
Nice.
And so we genuinely are open-handed with all of our conversations. We're not, just having the 12-step sequence to try and get to a place where you are now receptive to selling to. It's, want to have a conversation. I want to see what you do. And if there is business, great. If there isn't, I'm happy to know you, because I haven't been in this world for more than a year in terms of the selling, the, business marketplace. And so I'm happy to grow a network. And because our sequences, our systems take care of the lead gen and, driving that interest to get leads for me, I don't have to be, some pushy salesman to try and convert you. It's, if there's a great, value prop here and we want to move forward, then great. I will be the most attentive person to it. But if you just want to have a conversation, then I'm more than happy to have it.
Yeah. One of the things that I know small businesses particularly, or people who are just starting their businesses, often don't have big budgets. So they don't think they could afford a service like this. And I know we have a special offer that we're going to be teeing up and putting in the show notes for people sign up for a few months. But I do want to flag that, see what your thoughts are. And then also go back to, I like that you said people expect immediate results, but that's not really the process, because that's something people expect, whether it's marketing, sales, PR. They think the day that they pay you $1 is the day that they need to see like money coming in. And it takes time because, as you said, you need to get to know their business. You need to get to know their personality. You have to understand their customer personas, and then you build everything up from there. But it's not usually instantaneous. And I think people forget that. And I know it can be very scary too if you're investing money in something, but it is building a relationship, as we keep going back to. And this is, you're partnering with somebody. You're not just spending money, but you need to give it time to marinate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I love that you said the word investing, because it's not just spending money, it's investing in your company. Whatever strategy you use, whether it's marketing, whether it's ad spend, you're not just spending money in a transactional way. You are investing in the visibility and the profitability of your company, because you are putting your name out there in a space that it isn't currently and is larger than you could network on your own. Because, I have now become, and I'm sure so many other people are, the founders who, go to the, coffee meetings, they go to the speed networking, they do all those things. But when you spend money to put your name out there, you're doing something that is bigger than you could reach on your own. You're trying to do it at scale, and you're trying to do it in a way that structures to build up. And all of those things take time to get right. Whether it's your first ad campaign, like someone's not going to respond based off the first ad they see unless you just discount your product like crazy and it's an incredible value proposition. But I mean, even the way we buy individual items as consumers, like you want to know a brand recognition, you want to know that they're quality made. That's why you don't just automatically click the first thing you see on Instagram unless you're one of the most impulsive people. You usually, see it, Google it, kind of get a feel and want to know. And so in any way that you're reaching out, you want to have a little bit of comfortability with the person that you're doing business with, which is why you invest in getting your name out there at scale. And so since we say that we're really coming alongside you to understand you, we can put a good campaign out there to start out, especially if you know your ICP. But where we really start to thrive is then being able to understand and then start to have some ideas ourselves about how to branch off and how to use what we know in terms of creating soft calls to action, building in a little bit of interest into those conversations, and then finding who might actually need your services, that we can start branching out and seeing if we can really broaden that scope to then start bringing in leads to the top of your funnel and filling that top of that funnel for you in ways that maybe even you didn't picture at the start. And that's really what I think sets us apart, is that you don't just get our services, you get all of us strategizing with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And you mentioned a couple of types of client avatars that you focus on, startups who need investment, people just want to get those anchor clients or those, lead funders. What are some of the other types of clients that you like to work with or that you specialize in?
Yeah, I would say that our bread and butter is clients who have either just received a seed round or just secured funding and they need to grow at scale. They're ready to move, but either they're looking, because how we position ourselves is saying that for anyone who's struggling to fill their sales pipeline or anyone who wants to grow their sales pipeline, the options are you can invest in some sort of marketing or ad spend, you invest in a lead gen service, or you hire, sales development reps or business development reps to go and do the work for you. In all three of those, you have different pros and cons, but where we really say is you get the work of a sales development rep and you get the scale that you can reach with a marketing campaign in our business development services, because we bring the automation, but the automation sets up the people. And I think that's where we stand pretty much alone, in that is we're not selling you AI agents. We're selling you AI automation powered by the people who know how to sell, who know how to position your business and get you in front of the people who want to hear what you have to say. And so companies that have a seed round, smaller, like mid-level companies, 11 to 50 employees. And we really are industry agnostic in terms of we work with some lenders, some financial services, some cybersecurity, B2B, some SaaS companies. And so we really kind of have a wide portfolio of companies that we work with. Just if you're trying to interact with other businesses, you're trying to sell to them, we know how to do it.
Yeah. And you have really clear pricing on your website as well, which is also really nice. People, because I think so many people try to hide their pricing, or they're going to negotiate a little bit, or they're going to say, oh, it's this, but I can give you this discount or that discount. But they're not necessarily, they want to get your email address so they can get you into the funnel before they will tell you pricing. But, the fact that for the entry level and growth level clients, $2,500 and $5,000 a month, and you've been able to get them crazy results, that's amazing.
Yeah. And so it really is something where we're happy to meet with our clients. And as I was saying, the difference between a business development rep hiring someone and then us, one of those is cost. Because if we say that we can produce the work of 2 to 3 business development reps at that $5,000 package, then, hiring one person on that level commission, you're going to have to pay almost double that if they're really good at what they do.
Yeah. Easy. Minimum.
And so yeah, a lot of what we like to do is position ourselves as a disruptor for those who don't have any market share, but want to compete with those who can pay to have a full SDR team or something like that. We want to help you compete, because one of the biggest challenges as a founder is you don't just have to be the person with a great idea. You have to be the person with a great idea who can clearly communicate, who can be organized, who can network, who can sell. All of those things are on your plate until you get to a point where you can start to breathe and start to look around and see who can help you out. We come along and say, hey, we can take a third of that off of your plate and really streamline it for you. So that way it sets you up to stay fine-tuning your product and then be able to communicate it in the way that only you know how to the people who are interested in it.
Fantastic. Is there any one thing people need to think about if they're looking to have massive growth? They're looking, at maybe your organization or a variety. What are the questions they need to ask when they are interviewing, people that they want to get into business with to help their babies grow?
Man, that is a really good question. Probably the first thing that I would say or tell them to ask is, okay, what are your lanes that you actually try and target? Because a lot of people, say that they'll give you the leads, but they don't tell you that they could be the SMS marketing that just gets phone numbers and then sends the text messages. there's almost this approach in lead gen where people want to set up sequences that are so long that they basically just get you to relent into taking a call. And it's this pushy, this I'm going to show you that I'm persistent, but it's actually maybe overbearing or aggressive. But there's a way to stay on top of things, but still keep the human element of that interaction. And so what's kind of your philosophy for outreach? How do you pursue that? And then like, what does it look like for you to understand us? Because any company that says they're going to bring clients to you, you want to make sure that they're bringing the right clients. Yeah. And so what's your process for understanding what we do, our value proposition, and then what is your idea of where this is going to go? Like, how do you expect us to take you forward? Because I mean, even in sales all the time, you're trained to ask the questions of like the negative and the positive outcomes. Like, okay, if you hit your sales goals, what does that look like for you? Yeah. But if you don't, what's going to have to change? And so do that for lead gen companies and say like, okay, if you build out with us, like, what does that look like? And if there's some challenges or there's some trouble, do you have a plan B? You know, because a lot of times companies will just say like either, oh, we're just going to up the volume, or, you know, we don't really have a plan B. And in that, if your messaging isn't responding to the people that you're reaching out to, why would you reach out to more people and burn those contacts?
Exactly.
You need to have a company who comes back in, who starts to iterate with you and understand. And that's where I say we really hit our sweet spot, is being able to say like, okay, we're going to try and understand you. Round one, we have exercises set up. We have questionnaires that we send to try and understand. And then from there, we continually have the conversation to clarify exactly who you are. You know, it's like getting to know a friend. You kind of get their personality at first, but then you start to discover the idiosyncrasies that really make them them. Business is no different because it's made by people, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Love that perspective. And thank you for sharing those questions. I think it's important for people to even know what to ask, because I think a lot of people probably don't ask the right questions.
Oh, and I just forgot one more. What are your key performance indicators for how you evaluate success? That's one of the biggest ones that we have. So, you know, my co-founders are probably going to rag on me for forgetting that one until now. But,
no,
yeah.
you remembered before we stopped recording. So
perfect.
You're good. You're good.
Got it in. We love that.
Any other thing that you want to share?
Just, I think on a personal level, it's been one of the most fun things to put myself out there and try and figure this out. And so I know in the founding space, I hear so many stories of people who are like, man, I debated on doing this for 10 years before I finally did. And what could have been in those 10 years? And so if that's you and you're in a place where you're wondering if this is something that you can do, this market is so fun to be in. And there's so many people who want to help you succeed that if you just get out there and you have a genuine idea and you want to network with people and get to know, the founder community is one of the coolest communities that I've ever been a part of, because everyone understands the struggle. Everyone understands what you're trying to do and they want to help you succeed. Mm-hmm. And so it really is an incredible opportunity. Go be a part of it. Like if you have that passion, if you have that drive, go be a part of it. And then if you are a business who thinks you're sitting on a great idea, but don't know how to get it out there, man, I would love to have a conversation with you. Even if you don't use our services, I would love to talk with you about how you do that, because I think the world needs more great ideas. And I know they're out there. Just oftentimes they're in people who maybe don't have the know-how or the wherewithal to be able to communicate it to the audience that needs to hear it. So yeah, love to talk.
Amazing. Thank you. And we're going to have people, of course, go to your website. So we'll have that in the show notes. And I understand you do have a special offer. If people sign up for a 3 or 6 month contract before the end of 2024, they'll get 50% off their first month. That sounds like a really great deal.
Yeah. Yeah. We want to help you get started. And yeah, the new year is one of those great times where people start looking at their performance for last year and they want to make new goals. And so if you are a company who said, hey, we either didn't hit our metrics or we want to expand our metrics, we would love to have that conversation. And so, yeah, if you want to get started and get running full speed into the new year, we would love to work with you, and we'll give you a discount for 50% off your first month with us if you want to do that. So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Robert, I always ask one more question, which is, do you have a favorite family motto, mantra, verse, poem, inspirational quote, words that get you through every day and keep inspiring you, whether it's individually, with your wife, with your, business co-founders, just to keep on pushing?
Man, I love movies, and I don't know. I love quotes. So I think I jump between one to one to one because there's so many great ones. But I think my granddad had one where basically he just said, all a man has is his word. Once he was out, what he have left? And so it just, it was my call to have integrity in what I'm doing. And right now I gave my word to Zach and Bryce that we're going to build this thing and we're going to have a great company. And so I'm committed to seeing that through.
Nice.
But yeah, if I ever need that motivation, I'll usually kick on Lord of the Rings or Gladiator, one of the movies, and just sit and watch because, it's just the story of triumph through adversity is always beautiful in whatever form it comes in. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of a movie buff for that. So love it.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. And thank you to everybody who's watching or listening this episode of Your Brand Amplified. I'll be back again with another amazing guest to share their stories, their insights, a little bit about the business world, their journeys, and things that you should ask when you're going on your journey to make sure that you're really partnering with the right people and that you're set up for success now and into the future. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbrandamplified.com.